Hi, I'm Jonathan Block. In this video, I'll be doing an ambient-based soundscape using a couple of iPad effects apps from Igor Vasiliev, Stellarvox and VintageRack. Igor gave me these apps for free, but this isn't a review. Instead, I'm just demoing how I use them and some of the sounds that you can get. If you want to dive deep into either of these apps, just do a search here on YouTube, and there's a bunch of people who've done in-depth reviews, and I'll kind of show you how to really get into the nuts and bolts of both of these apps. The signal chain is a Gibson SG Standard bass, goes directly into a Universal Audio Volt 276 interface that communicates, it's connected to the iPad Pro. I've got a setup here in AUM. I've got two instances of VintageRack, one at the beginning of the chain, one at the end of the chain, and then Stellarvox in the middle. Post fader, I also have a high pass filter just to filter out the lows below 80 hertz gently. The Gibson is really solid in the bottom end, and it just gets really boomy. I find I have to do that with the Mellotron too. Let me start actually at the end of the chain because I just have a compressor here. I'm using this as a gentle limiter. The sounds within Stellarvox, there's a lot of swelling involved and multiple kind of layers. And so it doesn't distort, but it can go from really soft to really loud. So this just evens the sound out a little bit without going too crazy because the YouTube algorithm will take care of some of that too. So let me just demonstrate the sound here with the compressor. This is the straight Gibson sound. All right. I got to get the headphones on though too. So VintageRack, while I'm doing this, VintageRack is a multi-effects app. You get the different slots here. We turn that on or open it. I still have to turn it on. And you can just choose the different kind of effects that you want in each of the slots. And I have set up here a patch for the bass, so I've got a chorus, an ensemble, a phaser, delay, Dimension D, which I use the same way that I use the hardware pedal, and it's really just to create a little more stereo space at the end. Let me turn this on and start getting into some of the sound. So let's turn everything off except the compressor and Dimension D. Let me start with Dimension D off. I just want to demonstrate. So here it is without Dimension D. It's really in the center in mono. Turn Dimension D on. So you can hear it just widens it a little without getting too crazy. So I'll always have that on. Delay will always be on as well. It's pretty standard, kind of has an analog feel to it, but digital delay analog feel. VintageRack is meant to have effects from, Igor says, kind of the dawn of the digital age, so the 70s and the 80s, and I think it does a pretty good job. It doesn't really take up a lot of processing power, and it's just a quick way to get a bunch of different effects. Let me start, because I'm going to go back and forth between with a phaser and then the ensemble, which is a chorus. So let's start with the phaser. And as I always do, these effects are not really set high, particularly with the bass. It really helps to have the bass sound come through, and that's why the mix knob is your friend, or in here the faders. Essentially, that's what these do. These are giving you more or less of the effect. Is essentially the wet dry mix. Let's move over to the ensemble. So here it's just kind of it's like a classic ensemble chorus. Again, I don't have it really set high. It's just all this stuff kind of gets lost within Stellarvox anyway, so it's really just that initial sound. And also, probably at the jam, maybe I'll do a little improv before I get into Stellarvox. So along those lines, I'd probably start out with the phaser sound, and then move over to the ensemble sound for Stellarvox. So let's get into Stellarvox. So Stellarvox is, Igor calls it a hybrid reverb. It just gives you a lot of control over the tails. And again, this isn't really this isn't a review, but what I've found the easiest way to work with this app, kind of at the highest level, is just pick a factory patch. Now I've made a bunch of patches of my own that I'll get into, and then start with these bypass buttons on the bottom, because there's all these different sections here that build up the sound, and a lot of times there's just part of it that just doesn't sound right for what I'm doing. I go through and I hit bypass until I can zero in on that bit of the sound that I want to change, and then you can either keep it bypassed if you like the sound, or then just go into the knobs and start fiddling around. So I have two patches that I've created. I've done a similar video to this using the Mellotron. I'll have a link down below. And I used this patch that I created. It's a sustain. It's kind of a descriptive patch name. It's just kind of a medium level of what Stellarvox does with the tail. So here we go. So the effects are still on. We've got the, you know what? Did I switch over to the ensemble? Let me make sure. Yes. So we've muted the phaser and we're over to the ensemble again. It's not really going to make a difference within the Stellarvox sound. So let me make this nice and big. Oops, we definitely don't want to mute. Let me make this a little big. Okay. So let me demonstrate just this patch, and then I'll demonstrate another patch that I've created just for this jam. So you can hear, kind of fades in. I've got the wet dry at 50%. Let me just do a similar note thing. And of course, you keep doing it and the tail's kind of I'll actually use this particular patch at the last part of the jam. The main part of the jam with the Stellarvox is going to be this patch I've created here. It's kind of a metallic-y, flangey, not really flangey, but Doppler. I'm just going to play it. Now, you know, I want to demonstrate it without the compressor at the end of the chain so you can hear, because it's very controlled here. See if this works. Get that off. Close that up. We go in here, and actually, let me just turn it off. So we just heard kind of the demo with it on there. Let's... So we get a little dense. So you can kind of hear it's definitely louder. Not a lot, but enough. And then once everything gets going, compressor back on. Again, it's a gentle limiter, very subtle. So those are the two patches I'm going to use. Let me just kind of flip through some of the others so you can just hear some other capabilities here. You also get that when you switch between the patches. I like this one a lot. Kind of tweak this. See that there's this kind of resonance in there that's just a little too loud. Actually, it's controlled by the compressor. I essentially went through, I picked out about 10 patches that I liked, and then just kind of went in and changed them. The ones that I changed a lot, those are the ones I renamed. But it's a fun app just to kind of experiment with. So as far as the jam structure goes, I'll do a little bit of a kind of improv just using the effects from VintageRack. And then at some point I'll kind of turn Stellarvox on, and we'll see what I can get there. I'll use those two patches that I demonstrated here, and I'll see what kind of ambient space soundscape I can make. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and good luck with your own music.